It's a refreshing refresh. These are my Beyerdynamic DT770 Pro, the 250 ohm version, and these are the new Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X, their 48 ohm cans. And I'm recording this all on the new M70 Pro X broadcast microphone. Alright, that couldn't be helped. My entire professional career, I've bounced around the 770s. They've been a staple in recording and have existed with minimal change since the early 1980s. It's a consistent idea in recording, from mics to monitors to headphones. Producers and engineers start understanding a certain kind of sound, and then we stick with that sound. It's definitely a little different than consumer tech. Upgrades and changes aren't always viewed as positives. In audio land, if a producer needs to relearn the sound of their monitoring equipment. The 770s have been some of my favorites for critical listening. So it makes me excited and just a little anxious when a company like Beyerdynamic puts a fresh spin on something I'm very familiar with. One of the big claims for the 700 Pro X, a new stellar 45 driver that delivers the characteristic fast response, articulate sound, low distortion, and is appropriately mobile. By mobile, I mean you can take any headphone with you anywhere you want to go, but my 770s need a bit more oomph. So the flexibility to plug into nearly any jack is one of the marketing highlights on the 700 Pro X. Beyerdynamic claiming the stellar 45 reproduces pro sound at lower power when connected to USB interfaces, laptops, tablets, and even smartphones. But we still want something familiar. Now, the design updates are encouraging. We get a little fatter padding to the ear cups. It's a bit stiffer memory foam, so I expect there might need to be just a bit of a break-in time for listeners, especially those who are really going to be rocking these for long periods of time. We've got a spring steel core headband, but the outer casing is plastic. And I do kind of miss the buttoned wrap-up on the 770s. I would judge clamping force as moderate, maybe a little stronger than my well-worn 770s, but the new ear cups, the new pads, and this fresh headband block more noise around me than on my 770s. It's not as nearly vice-like as my Sennheiser HD25s, but blocking almost as much noise. But more importantly, the 700 Pro X add a detachable cable, mini XLR connector. You'll be able to swap it out with different lengths and cable types. This is the happiest update for me. I get real anxious about durability and repairability. Replacing the cable on the 770s requires a bit of soldering. Here, we can just plug and play. We get 2 cable lengths in the box with a little travel pouch, and I also want to highlight here the packaging is wonderfully simple. It's mostly cardboard, a refreshing lack of plastics or wraps. This is very well done. I want this to be the new badge of premium. Less waste in the box, and the box should break down better in landfills. All of this is looking real good, but these are headphones. So how do they sound? First of all, it shouldn't be any crazy surprise that the lower impedance cans don't need as much juice from a headphone amp. Right? I mean, we should have the math on that pretty well. I did about half of my comparison listening on my Focusrite USB interface, and I had to turn up the 770s a lot higher to reach a comfortable listening volume. Now, I also compared on my FIO Q3, and I needed a lot less gain on the 700s. And I should detail that. As a point of reference, I'm going to be comparing hard against the 770s because I've spent so much of my life with my head in these, and I think the 700s live up to the reputation of Beyerdynamic cans. Punchy, detailed, and with a light lift to the upper EQ. Now, I know some folks really make fun of that upper presence, but it's something I appreciate on closed back cans. Maybe there is a touch of an overcorrection, but it prevents either of these from ever getting muddy or dull. More to the point, I'd say attacks are even sharper and they release even faster. The lows on my 770s feel a bit more persistent, like on Daft Punk Lose Yourself to Dance. There's almost a light fog of rumble, where on the 700s, the bass attack is cleaner and the guitar work seems just a touch lifted in the mix. They do sound similar, but I'm talking about very specific nuances to my ears. your mileage will vary. Ditto. Talking some aggressively mixed hip-hop like RTJ4. Neither headphone rolls the skull rumbling on a track like Just. That track, I love that track because it's built to sound like it's destroying subwoofer cones. Like it wants to make your speakers floppy. I love it. The 700s nail a scalpel attack on that bass hit, but the decay is just a bit tidier, almost a little too clean. I can't really play the song because I'd get the copyright strike. Now, switching gears to some alternative rock, I did get my goosebumps moment in Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of. I mean, it's just mandatory that I listen close for the guitar distortion right at that moment. And the 700s reproduced that effect phenomenally well. All right, playing around with some pop, I got stuck in a loop on Lord's Solar Power. I really like the production on all the overdubbing on that album. No, really, it's pretty good. Like there are these elements of classic George Michael with influences from oldies and surf rock with the harmonies of the Mamas and the Papas for A Girl and Her Guitar pop album. It's refreshingly musically literate. Oh, I'm not going to be able to dig myself out of this one, am I? Oh. Anywho, the clarity here really works for me, bringing the production of that album to the forefront with layers of voices and light filters buried in some of those layers. The 700s sonically produce all of those layers almost as distinctly as if you were looking at fossil layers in the earth. It's a clumsy metaphor, but it's the best I've got. Where I felt this headphone maybe stumbles with this kind of articulation is on a classic hard-panned stereo recording. I've also been on an Al Green kick lately because there's never a bad time to be on an Al Green kick. Well, on Here I Am, I feel Beyerdynamic style lifts the snare drum right up under your nose, and it kind of pushes the horns a little farther back than I would prefer. Now, I get a similar issue with the 770s, but I think it's a little more distinct on the 700s. And this is always going to come down to the music you prefer and the parts of each song that you really want to hear. I also have to say the revised ear cup design and the deeper padding seem to slightly reduce the stereo width for my ears. I still have to rate these as very good for closed back dynamic cans, but I'm guessing that for my skull, the slightly firmer clamp and the fresh pads are closing in the stereo width just a bit more. The happy flip side to that, the 700s are able to block noticeably more sound around me than the 700s, to a degree that passive noise reduction here is rivaling the active noise reduction on cheaper travel headphones. I'd almost put these up as a solution for traveling. I bet they'd fare pretty well on airplanes while easily handling the general noise around buses and subways. Whew. Well, I've been rambling on for a bit here. We should probably start wrapping this up. Where's that leave us with the Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X? There's a lot to like here. If you followed any of my videos in the past, you know I'm a big fan of specialization, picking the right audio tools for the right audio jobs. And I think more people should own a handful, a collection of headphones instead of dumping all their cash into one nice headphone. The 700 Pro X ultimately get a positive recommendation from me. I'd have been shocked if Beyerdynamic had made a bad headphone. But the price point makes for a more targeted discussion though. Closed back headphones are more practical for situations where you have to contend with noise in your environment or where you just might not know what you're listening or recording environment might be. I think the 700s handily succeed in accomplishing that critical listening idea while being more broadly accessible. You can tell a lot of attention has gone into crafting a signature Beyerdynamic sound, and these should at once feel fresh and familiar. Contributing to the price conversation at this tier, it's not just a consumer idea of audio quality. The 700 Pro X don't sound 3 times better than a $100 pair of headphones. Well, actually, I think they do, but it's because at this tier, I'm looking for a specific kind of sound for my specific tastes and with an idea of my specific work and play needs. Again, I could not care less about the good bass. I'm actively looking for razor wire articulation in the mids. As your tastes evolve, you'll probably find that you'll spend more to get a more exacting flavor of the sound you prefer. But beyond the audio reproduction, I think it's worth highlighting the manufacturing as one of the cost benefits. The material choices here are very good. The construction is excellent. The new design considerations should help durability and longevity, and the headphones are still handmade in Germany. You pay more up front, but you should get a headphone that lasts longer and is more repairable for your higher investment. We are at a precious crossroads for consumer tech and movements like right to repair. We can casually say things like, vote with your wallet, so it's worth digging in a little more on the products that make responsible manufacturing and repairability a highlight of their design and marketing. I do have to send these back to Beyerdynamic, and I still have my trusty 770s to fall back on, but I am gonna miss the 700s when they're not in the Gadget Lab. I will, of course, leave some links down below for more information on all the new gear from Beyerdynamic, and let me know in the comments how you felt the M70 Pro X sounded. In a lot of my videos recently, I've been using lavs and little clip-on microphones, so it was kind of fun getting back to a more broadcast-style microphone. Let me know what you thought. Drop them comments. As always, thanks so much for watching, sharing, subscribing. Supporting your favorite content creators never been more critical than it is today, so I greatly appreciate those of you who are checking out the links below, shopping a little merch. That kind of stuff really does help keep production rolling on this channel. Full list of all my affiliates and partnerships on SomeGadgetGuy.com, or you might consider, just maybe, joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically a collection of the coolest tech pals on the planet. So I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next review.